What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. In this video for the First Descendant today, I'm going to be answering a question which I get a lot in Discord as well as in the comments of my videos. And I read, "Hey shitlips, long time viewer, first time commenter, which external components are the best and should I be farming?" So this is actually a relatively easy question to answer, even though there are many sets in the game. As we can see, when we go to external components here, we can see there are tons of different sets that we can use in the game. But for me, it simply boils down to what I'm trying to do with the Descendant. Is it a Descendant that I'm trying to use a lot of skills with, and that is where the majority of my damage is coming by? That determines the external set I'll use for that. Or is it a gun running Descendant like Glay, Haley, Valby, Blair, or Enzo? And that determines another kind of set. So let's talk about these two different kinds of sets. I have a huge amount of builds that I have set up for all different kinds of Descendants, but I generally kind of choose between these two different sets. So let's deal with this skill-based set first, okay? So for this, there really is nothing better than the Slayer set in the game right now. We are getting some new external sets next week with the patch, but nothing there that I see there seems like it's going to be. And I usually have this habit of making predictions like this and then I end up being wrong. So let's go ahead and timestamp this. But I still think Slayer is going to reign supreme when it comes to like building skill-based Descendants and having them be, let's say, a little bit glass cannony, but being able to push a lot of damage out. And that's simply due to the fact that Slayer's 4-set piece bonus, the skill power plus 26.1%, is just too juicy to not actually use. Now, when it comes to the substats on the armor, yeah, you can really build it to be very beneficial to a skill-based Descendant, because you can have ways of essentially always making sure that you have an abundance of MP, and that of course is the fuel for using your skills. So in a perfect world, the ideal setup for me are these substats on these 4 pieces here that we're going to talk about right now. Of course, you want them in gold, so that goes without saying, but you know, purple is a good place to sort of like start from, and then obviously you're looking for those sweet juicy guard rolls where you get both in gold. So when it comes to the auxiliary power, the cigar, you want to have MP recovery out of combat on here, and you want to have max HP. One of the things about the Slayer set is defensively it's not fantastic. It does not have great defensive stats by default. As I'm sure you know, all of these components have a value that they roll always the same, so meaning like they have an intrinsic value that they roll. That's the first line that you see there. Like defense always rolls on the auxiliary power of Slayer, and on the sensor of Slayer you always get max shield at the top. Now different sets have different combinations of them. Some of the super tanky sets have 4 HP, so each one of the pieces rolls intrinsically HP and so on. But generally speaking, from a defensive, you know, perspective, Slayer does not roll great because it rolls defense, it rolls max shield, and it rolls max HP. Generally speaking, HP rolls are preferable when you want to go defensive, especially if you're building something like overwhelming shield or something like that. So the bottom line is this ain't that great. So we do pick up max HP here, which gives us a second HP roll, which just makes us a little bit less squishy. But MP recovery out of combat is really good for us here, because there are situations where, for example, you can disengage from the enemy or so on, and this is going to help you regain mana super fast in those situations, and it's going to get you back into the fight a lot quicker. This is also super noticeable if you're doing like mobbing based content and you're moving from pack to pack or room to room. You're just going to get a lot of your MP back a lot faster, so you don't have to look around for like fucking blue bricks and shit on the ground. When it comes to the sensor, this is arguably the most important external component piece for a skill-based Descendant, because it has 2 very important substats on it, which will really help you out if you get both of them to roll on the piece. Max MP, of course, giving you a bigger amount of MP in your pool, which means more skills before you run dry. And then MP recovery in combat is really strong, because that means that even while you are expending mana and while you are fighting, you are actually also regenerating this MP by the, you know, the amount that's like mentioned there. And so this is just another way for you to like stay topped up and essentially get back. Now this MP recovery out of combat and MP recovery in combat is one of the things that is strikingly noticeable if it's missing from your gear and you are in a long-ish fight where you start like maxing out your MP. So Oftentimes you'll notice a big difference in your damage output if you actually get these on here, and it's just overall gonna play more comfortably. Then on your memory, defense is a good stat for us here, based of course on a pool that's available to us. An MP recovery modifier is again just a plus for us here, because this MP recovery modifier basically affects all of our MP recovery. So that means our natural MP recovery, but also our MP recovery in combat, as well as our MP recovery out of combat. All of these are boosted by this. So this is like an additional multiplier or modifier on top of that. So this can be really powerful as well, and can actually make these even better. Even though they're already pretty sick, this will just push it to the next level. And then last but not least, we have our processor, which is here you can roll max shield. There's also, and I will show you the pool of stuff that we can choose from here, but max shield and toxin resistance is really good choices here. You also get like shield regeneration, which you can also pick instead of toxin resistance. Generally speaking, in my opinion, toxin is the worst of the sort of like elements in the game, because of the dot that it puts on you. Yes, fire does it as well, but toxin is just way more fucking irritating. And so the point is that this will just give you a little bit of additional survivability there. Now, for this next part, I advise you to get some shades. As I mentioned, then you can see here that for skill damage set, you want 4-piece Slayer. These are the optimum rolls that you want on there. And of course, these are the rolls that can, this is the pool, right, that you roll from. So the point is that here you can see everything that you can roll possibly on an auxiliary power, everything that you can roll possibly on a sensor and a memory and a processor. That is why I say, like, for example, when we look at the processor, there really isn't like a lot of fantastic stuff to choose from. Basically, max shield and toxin resistance is a good combo. Max shield and shield recovery modifier is okay. Shield recovery modifier and toxin resistance is okay. The other ones are not really going to, I mean, you know, someone might have the argument for something like Eceive display time or something like that. Fuck that noise. The point is, these are the best combinations of rolls that you can get. And this over here is pretty much what you're looking at from a skill-based setup for pretty much every single descendant in the game that is using skills to kill the enemies in the game. Like, for example, Bunny, Innes, Freyna, and so on and so forth. Next up, we have sets for gun-running descendants. In other words, if you're running something like a Haley, a Glay, Enzo, and so on, because these descendants most often, I mean, Enzo might be the absolute to the rule here, because Enzo does actually use his skills a lot to actually give his boost to firearms. But the bottom line is, if you're looking at someone like Haley, if you're looking at Glay, if you're looking at Blay or so, generally speaking, they only activate 1 or 2 skills, and then the weapons, the guns, do most of the work for them. So in this case, it makes a lot of sense to actually build tanky, at least in my world. And so therefore, I have a general setup when it comes to a tanky external component set. And that pretty much comes down to 2 pieces Polar Knight and 2 pieces Annihilation. And I'll explain why. For that, we're gonna have to go again to our trusty spreadsheet. There are a massive amount of these sets in the game, as I've said, and they all roll with different intrinsic values at the beginning. When you are trying to get yourself a tanky set, you want as many HP rolls as possible, generally speaking. So good options here are, for example, Distorted Resolve. As you can see, all 4 pieces roll max HP. You've got Volcanic, where you have 2. You've got Polar Knight, where you have 3. You've got Invader, where you have 4. So these are all fantastic choices when it comes to putting the pieces together, because you're already getting HP rolls as the intrinsic values, which means that you can possibly end up with 5 HP rolls if you get 4 pieces with max HP, and then you still roll max HP on your cigar, on your auxiliary power as well. Now, Polar Knight is the easiest one to farm, because this actually drops from Dead Bride, which is pretty much like the second boss in the game on hard. So it's very easy to farm, very easy to get hold of. And the point here, as I said, is all your pieces here roll max HP. So 2 pieces here give us a 2 set bonus of Chill skill power. Now, instead of 2 pieces Polar Knight, you can also use 2 pieces Distorted Resolve. It has the same effect. You have 2 HP rolls on there, and this actually gives you Assault Rifle and Submachine Gun attack additional. So if you are using those 2 weapon types, then Distorted can be better. Distorted, of course, is farmed from Deathstalker, so that's a little bit more difficult to get your hands on than Polar Knight. And then another good alternative is also Hunter. 2 pieces Hunter also rolls HP, and the point is, this can actually be gotten from the Void Vessel, which is less difficult than Deathstalker, but no less more irritating. It's an annoying place to go for me. I've spent far too much time there gathering dog food, so yeah. But Hunter is also good because this actually gives you a 2-set bonus of skill cooldown minus 4%. Now, you might be wondering, okay, but why am I insisting on using 2-piece annihilation? And more specifically, the 2 pieces of annihilation that I use are the memory and the processor. Okay, specifically the memory is super important here. Now, the 2-piece bonus of annihilation is really good. It gives you 5.7% additional skill duration, which can oftentimes be very useful. Usually your gun descendants have skills that you activate to be able to deal more damage with a weapon, and this will make that skill last longer. So, you know, why wouldn't you want that? But Annihilation Memory specific has a small little leg up over every other memory piece in the game that has an HP as its main stat. Let me explain. So if we go over here, right, and we look at, so let's pick something like Distorted. Let me see where it is. So Distorted, you can see, has a max HP roll, and you can see it's 484. Let's pick another one as well, which also has HP. So maybe something like Volcanic. Volcanic's memory also has a max HP 484. Now, I don't know if this is by design or a mistake by the developer, but the Annihilation memory module is the only one that rolls 646 on its max HP. So that means that even though it's only like 200 HP or something like that, 200 HP is 200 HP. And of course, if you're building something like Overwhelming Shield, so 200 HP actually means quite a bit. But the point is, this is the maximum, the min-max juice that you can essentially squeeze out of this. And that means that, as you can see, every other max HP roll on any piece of gear is always 484, with the odd exception of Annihilation Memory being the 646. So I hope they don't fix this, but because it's kind of cute. But the point is, this is always why this is like your preferred combination. Now, for the substats on the tanky armor, here you want to go obviously as tanky as possible. So the thing is, you want to roll max HP, and then you want to roll a resistance. So each one of these 4 pieces can roll, as you remember from our table, I'll refresh it for you just now again. Each one of these pieces can roll a different resistance. So we can roll max HP and fire resistance on our cigar, and over here we can roll chill resistance and max MP, again just giving us, usually, I mean, Glaze the only exception here, she doesn't use MP, but all the other descendants do also use MP, so giving yourself additional MP4 when you do have to activate a skill is good. And then here on your memory you can have electric resistance and defense, again good defensive stats. And then lastly here you can have toxin resistance and shield, or toxin resistance and shield recovery modifier, or, you know, shield and shield recovery modifier if you don't want toxin resistance. But all of those are fantastic tanky stats. Shades up. As you can see here, then my tanky set is 2-piece polar, 2-piece annihilation, and this is the ideal setup. As I said here, obviously you want them all in gold. That is the best. So polar coming from Dead Bride, annihilation coming from Devourer. If you want to go the distorted route because you want to have the additional damage to assault rifle or submachine gun, you can do that. That means you need to go farm Deathstalker. If you want Hunter because you want the skill cooldown, then of course that means that you need to go ahead and do a whole bunch of Void Vessel. 2 last things I want to cover before I let you go is, if you want to build yourself a farming set, this is the best combination. Of course, there's no specific set from an external component like with a set bonus that benefits farming. At least I don't think there is. But the bottom line is the combination of substats that you want on your farming set is this. Again, this is picked from this table over here, so picking the ones which benefit farming the best. Now, this is going to be an extremely flimsy set in terms of defensive capabilities. You have no resistances, you have no additional defensive rolls, anything like that, and the only defensive rolls that you have are coming from the intrinsic pieces of the armor. But the bottom line is this combination of substats, so module drop rate, Kuiper drop rate, consumable drop rate, character XP gain, gold drop rate, firearm proficiency gain, equipment drop rate, and item acquisition distance, which is kind of dead now because we have El Doggo. But the point is, this is a good combination because this covers every single possible thing that you could be wanting to farm with a farm set in the game. Last but certainly not least, I want to give a shout out to 2 extremely good purple sets which don't get nearly enough love in the game and can actually be pretty cute in specific situations and with specific builds in mind. The first one is Acrobat. Acrobat is a purple set that essentially gives you a 2-set bonus with some skill power and some firearm attack, and then a 4-set bonus which gives you a massive 21% firearm critical hit rate and a 5.9% skill critical hit rate. This is a great set to use in certain situations where you are just maybe under 100%, or you want to get as close as possible to 100% with firearm critical hit rate. Acrobat can be really good for us. The other one which is also good is Battle Aesthetics. Battle Aesthetics basically has a 2-set bonus that gives us a whopping 18% skill critical hit rate, and then it has a 4-set bonus with a little bit of skill power and a little bit of skill cost reduction. But the main point here being the 2-piece bonus here, which is 18% skill critical hit rate. So this is kind of like the opposite of Acrobat. This is for skills, Acrobat is for firearms. But generally speaking, these two purple sets are pretty cool, and yeah, they are overshadowed by things like Slayer and so on, but specifically Acrobat can be kind of clutch in situations where you are building a good gunny Descendant. Now these come from different places, right? So there's not really a way for me to say to you, okay, so if we go over here, I just want to show you what I mean by that is specifically all the sets we've been talking about so far, it's one Void Intercept boss that you go and fight for them. With those sets is a little bit different. So Battle Aesthetics, basically you can see that it comes from all of these different activities. It's a little bit, I would say, more cumbersome to farm because sometimes they just don't drop at all. And then there's also Acrobat, of course, which comes from all of these different activities. But basically my sets I've kind of like accumulated over time, and essentially what I do is I keep an eye out for whenever it is the 400% dungeon for the day, and then I just go ahead and target farm the fuck out of that and try to see as many of those components as I can get. Now, the reason for this video is obviously to answer that question at the beginning, but also because it's arguably the best time ever in the game right now to farm external components, because we had a patch change which essentially made it that the Void Intercept bosses which you kill for these external components used to always only drop 2 pieces per kill, but now they drop a whopping 8 pieces per kill. So it's a lot easier for you to get multiple drops, and essentially every kill now is equal to 4 kills in the past. And so therefore you can get more of these components to drop with hopefully more combinations of the gold stats that you're looking for, and you can bolster up your external component sets to be ready for the content that's coming in the future. Usually this last little bit of time before a patch drops, people are looking for things to do and stuff to keep themselves busy, and this is something that I absolutely always sort of like tell people to, you know, do. If you're looking for something to do for an hour in the game and you just want to kill some time, farm some external component sets. You never know when the good shit might drop. But that's it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know in the comments down below if there are any questions, anything that I didn't cover. I know I jumped around a lot and everything like that. I was kind of like going off script and I was like just sort of like pulling it together, but it's possible that I've missed something, and of course I'd love to include that in the comments or something. Other than that, fucking cheers.